Welcome to the first podcast of the new year. It's 2026. Happy New Year to everybody. I appreciate everybody spending some time with us this morning. I'm Bob. That's Vipin. We're talking today about the podcast Fall, Rise, Give. And this week we figured we'd talk about something that hits close to home for all of us for, especially for this time of the year. I think a lot of us set our resolutions but don't follow through on them, and I personally am one of those people. I remember back, Vipin, when we were in high school and growing up in Roseville, Minnesota, there was a Gold's Gym there. I don't know if you remember that gym at all.
No, I don't. I remember going to another gym though. There was a 24-hour fitness or Bally's or something that we all started going to like sophomore year.
Yeah, see, and that was about the same time for me. As I think I was a sophomore or a junior, and I saved up my money to go to Gold's Gym because I wanted to not be picked on in school, and so I saved. It was, I don't know, it was $200 or whatever it was back then. It was a lot of money, because it was, and I had to pay for it myself. And I remember getting the membership, and at that time you had to pay for it for the entire year.
Yeah.
And so I paid for it for the entire year at the time, and I went a total of 2 times. I went the first time just to kind of get acclimated with stuff. The second time I went, and then I'm like, this is not for me. And that was kind of when I stopped doing resolutions.
Oh, wow.
So like 40 some years ago was the last time that I did a resolution. I mean, I think about things that I need to get done in my, in my head, and I'm pretty good at following through at things and getting it done. But I don't want to have another situation like that where I spend, nowadays the money would be like closer to $10,000. You know what I mean? So where I spend all the money that I have to do something and then not be able to do it or not follow through with doing it. So I just kind of stopped.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, Bob. Research has shown that people who write down their goals, I'm not saying just for the year, but in general, I think a Harvard study came out in the 70s. They had tracked people from a Harvard school that had written down their goal with specificity of what they wanted. And then they checked back in with them 20 years later. People who had written down their goals were like 10 times as more successful at achieving their results than people who didn't write down their goals. So I learned that lesson a long time ago. And through self-help books and things that we've talked about, I actually came up with a process of writing down my 5-year goals and working them backwards to 4, 3, 2, 1. And I have been writing my goals down. Not to say that I'd achieve all my goals, but
right.
As far as the resolutions and things, life got in the way. As they say, life gets lifey. In 2021, I remember it gets lifey, right?
It does get lifey.
It does. And I made a commitment. 2021 was my rock bottom, and I was unhealthy, weighed the most that I had weighed. And then I decided in 2021 that I was going to start going to the gym in the morning. And since then, for the last 5 years now, I have been going to the gym in the mornings, I would say 95% of the time.
Ever like 7 days a week?
7 days a week. Yeah. Now, I have days when I was sick last week. I just walked the dog, or I walked for an hour or so every day. And just again, yesterday I had 20,000 steps actually. I walked the dog twice, and I worked out for an hour at the gym. And I'm still not even 100%, but I still did it. Now, I built a habit of knowing that it's the best thing that I can do for myself to start the day. So that commitment from 2021 and healthy choices. And then in 2023, I started reading books again and meditating more and more. I think I started meditating I started meditating 20 years ago. But again, I just refocused my energy around what I need to do on a daily basis. So what I want to say is it's January the 4th. It's Sunday, and people are going to listen to this probably on a Monday. It's not too late to write down your goals for the year. And the more specific you can do about your goals in the form of your career goals, your relationship goals, your health goals, things like that, just write down a couple of sentences in your phone, in your notes app, or on a piece of paper, and try to remind yourself of these goals on a weekly basis at the very least. But really, the key is to remind yourself on a daily basis. How important these goals are to you is going to determine how and if you're going to achieve them. If you just want to
Right.
say, hey, I'm going to eat healthier, what does that mean? Are you just going to have more burgers or less burgers? What does that mean?
Hey, I want to get on that diet
Yeah,
where,
exactly.
you know what, I'm going to eat healthier this year, Vipin. I'm going to have burgers, Doritos, and ice cream, and drink more beer.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a. I could follow through with that one.
Yeah. The thing is not to have any fries, right? Uh, so the key is not to have any fries. You can have burgers all day long, a lot of protein.
Right.
Um,
So I went to college right after we graduated high school. Then I went again in 2017 and graduated in 2018 with an associate's degree in sales and marketing. And we were talking about writing down your goals, and I remember the SWOT goals, but I couldn't remember what it was, so I just kind of Googled that real quick. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Those are the things that you kind of got to break apart when you're writing down your goals, correct?
I don't think of SWOT as when I write down the goals. I
No?
think of them as SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, and timely. And so I think most people, when they talk about goals nowadays, the word SMART is the way that they write them down. SWOT is for analysis around making decisions.
I knew
Yeah,
that it was. I knew that it was. Actually, I knew that it was one of those, but for some reason, SWAT stepped in my head. But I
yeah,
just
yeah,
googled the SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound.
yeah,
So timely. That makes a lot more sense doing that.
yeah.
So do you actually write down, or how many goals do you put down for yourself in a year?
So I put down a goal in each one of the areas, sometimes two or three.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's take the health one. We've talked about it before. Going to the gym is not a goal because I already do it at daily basis. So for me, it's about diet. So what
Uh,
I'm trying to do this year is on a daily basis be very conscious of what I'm eating and slow down my eating. So eat slowly and be very mindful, being very present when I'm eating instead of rushing through and overeating. I find the last few days, even being mindful. For example, I had salad for dinner the last 2 days. I haven't been snacking. I went to a restaurant bar to watch the Seahawks play last night against the 49ers, and I just had non alcoholic beers. I didn't have any of the bar food. Lots of people are ordering bar food and tater tots and burgers and all those things, nachos. They all look really, really good.
oh,
But
absolutely.
I just stayed present and I didn't eat anything until I got home. And I had a leftover salad and a little bit of fries to go with it and a little bit of a leftover burrito. And so all relatively healthy choices. I didn't make a dramatic shift. I made a
Mhm.
small shift. So my goals for this year for health is really just be little things that I can attain.
Can I ask a question about that? Because you said you're not putting down going to the gym as a goal, but wouldn't the continuation of that be part of your goal? I mean, to continue doing it daily?
I feel like I've mastered that muscle.
Okay.
So I feel like it's already part of my must do habit.
Hmm.
So it's already ingrained in me. That's something I have to do every day to feel the best that I can feel. Same with prayers in the morning. And, we got started a couple minutes late. I did a whole set of prayers this morning. I read from a couple of different books and journals. I woke up a little later than normal. I wanted to go to the gym at 7 today, but I gave myself grace because I haven't been feeling that well. So I took it easy this morning. I didn't go to the gym. Oftentimes, when we start our podcast, I've already been to the gym for an hour.
Hmm.
But right after the podcast, I'm going to go to the gym, and then I'm going to clean up, and then I'm going to go walk the dog. That's kind of my routine for the day. But I did my
Right.
prayers and my little light meditations this morning. I read from a couple of different sources of books, actually 3 different sources, and get myself ready for the day. The other thing that I'm trying to work on this year, and we've talked about mantras, and mantras could be the same thing as affirmations or prayers. I've really been trying to shift my thoughts in the moment. So the first goal was around health. The second one is around shifting my thoughts in the moment throughout the day. So I have the
Meaning what?
mantra, meaning like yesterday, I was in a situation where a couple of times throughout the day, I was feeling off balance. Part of it was sickness and the headache coming on, and a situation arose where I was kind of triggered a little bit, and then I had to adjust my plans. And I just said to myself what we talked about last week: I'm calm, centered, and loving. And because I wanted to be calm and centered, I was allowed to be more loving to the situation and not take that. I got triggered still, but I didn't overreact. I
Hmm.
apologized for my behavior to the person that I was talking to. Felt a little frustrated. Right away, fixed the problem. Went on, meditated for an hour and a half, felt much better. And then towards the end of the day, when the Seahawks were playing against the 49ers, I was really nervous, really anxious. So I kept that while I was at the restaurant at the bar, I was repeating these phrases to myself throughout the game: calm and centered and loving. Instead of saying I'm going to feel less anxiety, bring in that tough word that's kind of negative, anxious, I just focused on I'm calm, centered, and loving. I enjoyed the game a lot more. I stayed centered, and the outcome of the game was huge for me and my team, which is the Seahawks. But the point being is that I try to use these tools throughout the day.
What you just described about going off on somebody, going off on somebody, that's me. So is it for me? It's so hard to admit that I'm wrong when clearly I'm an idiot sometimes,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I I really find it difficult to say, you know what, hey, I'm sorry, I'm a dick. How
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
how
it's
how how do you make yourself, or not even make yourself, but how do you accept, or how do you do that without swallowing your pride, or
yeah. I mean, that's the ego talking, right? The pride and the ego kind of go hand in hand. And so, if you're calm, you're less likely to react. But let's say yesterday I wasn't calm; I got triggered, and then I had to remind myself to be calm, centered, and loving. And in that situation, the loving thing was get the person what they wanted. I was inconvenienced. I didn't want to do this extra detour of my time. I spent the time with that person to get them what they wanted. So I gave them what they needed at the moment.
Mhm.
And then I apologized for saying, I'm sorry I reacted in a negative way. What you were asking for was reasonable. It just wasn't what I was expecting to do at this time.
So, and actually, those words, I got to try to ingrain those words into my head, because that's exactly the stuff that bugs me the most. Is like, I'm planning to do something at this point, and then somebody else goes, "Hey, would you do
Yeah.
this?" And then
Yeah.
that just, because being a partner, you want to do that. You want to stand up and say, "Okay, I'll do that," but it's an inconvenience sometimes.
It is. And it's an uncomfortable triggering moment at the worst of it, right? The worst part of it is it triggers you and you're like, shit, I was gonna do something else.
Yeah,
Now I'm pissed. And
yeah.
then at that moment right there, you gotta pause, remind yourself what thought resulting in an action do you want to go here? Is the relationship more important than what your control of what you wanted to do today? And so the relationship is usually more important. And so you want to maintain that relationship. Therefore, you got to put the ego aside, your controlled behavior aside, and then just ask yourself, am I being loving at the moment? I think we've talked about this last week. I think for me, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but I've been doing a lot of work for a lot of years in myself. Gone to see therapists on a regular basis, got coaches, got all sorts of stuff that I do on a regular basis. I meditate daily. I meditated for an hour and a half yesterday. And even I get triggered, right? And so everybody's gonna get triggered. Everybody's gonna get thoughts of fear, thoughts of anger, thoughts of whatever. It's how quickly we can change our thoughts and therefore our actions that determines it.
Hmm.
I know of no better tool for me than to repeat the mantra, I'm calm, centered, and loving in the moment. So working on my thoughts, doing that. I have other mantras in the book that I'm writing. I told you about. I've got
Hmm.
like 14 different mantras in there. And I wrote all of them down and I practice these mantras throughout the day. My goals, my Uber goals for the book, the success that I want to have. I have wealth goals that I try to write down. I put them in as intention and desires, but I surrender to God or a higher power, saying, universe, give me what you think I need. Here's what I want. And I remind myself on a daily basis of these goals
Hmm.
through repetition of mantras.
So that ends up being more so the manifestation of something, since you're putting it down there and using it as a short-term goal than a long-term goal, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Unless you write it down, it doesn't exist. It's just a wish.
So it's a tangible rather than a wishable.
Exactly. It's a tangible goal. You'll have, I want to do this by the end of the year. And to
Right.
do X by the end of the year, you've got to behave in such a way that you're going to achieve that. So, what action can you take today? For me, the most important action that I can take is, I don't want to say control my thoughts, but master my thoughts, master my emotions. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to get triggered. It just means that when I get triggered, I come back really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And so, mastering my emotions, my thoughts, and then the action that I can take. And in this case,
Calm, centered, loving, Vipin. Calm,
exactly,
centered,
mental
loving.
loving. Yeah, yeah. And
You know,
the
it's
go ahead.
funny that just three simple words like that can actually bring you to a calm, centered, loving feeling. Because as I was doing the editing of the podcast last week, I kept thinking about that as I was
Yeah,
doing it, and I
yeah,
felt calm, centered, and loving. And then I forgot about it until this week when we're talking about it again.
yeah.
You know,
That's and that's the key to achieving your goals. You can't forget about them. You got to remind yourself on a daily behavior. You've got to pick something. There you go. Love it.
I wrote them down this time so I remember them. Calm, centered, loving. I think that's something that I want to get and put up in my studio and put up in my front room, because I think we all need. I think we all really do need to do that. Is to be calm, centered, and loving. It won't hurt any part of our lives. It really won't. I mean, it'll add to it.
That's the base. That's the grounded chakra, right? That's the essence of being in a state of mind that will help you get what you want. And even that, while it's important, it's like a house, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you build a house, you build a foundation. That's the foundation. If that foundation isn't strong, everything's going to come crashing down. Next, you want to build a house that you can live in. Foundation isn't enough for that. So let's say you want to create a good frame on top of the foundation. The frame is your set of goals and things you want to achieve, right? And I want to have a nice living room. I want to have 3 bedrooms. I want to have a nice kitchen that's open, and I want to have a living room that feels inviting. You have to remind yourself of these goals. So for me, my wealth goal may not be for this year, but it is for a period of time that I put out there. I'd rather not share it on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I reminded myself daily of this goal. And then the small thing that I take in, and the third chakra is all about action and not overcoming fear. And so this is the one that is really helpful. Once you build that foundation, I have this mantra called I act with purpose. You have to write down your purpose to be able to act on it, right? You got to write it down. As simple
Mm-hmm.
as that. And so the key for me has been around, what can I do today to act with purpose? So I keep reminding myself, I act with purpose. What is my purpose? So I wrote that down, and I repeat that after. And so writing down is just putting in concrete the foundation of your house, what you want it to look like, what you want it to feel like. And a house is a metaphor for a set of goals, set of dreams that you want to achieve, set of things you want to manifest. I think the word manifest gets overused, and people think it's just a wish, it's just going to come to me naturally. That's not that's not how things work. You have
Yeah.
to have a daily practice of focusing on what it is that you want, why do you want it, and then you have to take daily action on it.
What about checking in on it? I mean, accountability and then rewarding yourself for getting that done. I know that, like for me, I've shared this in the past that I do this workout called Supernatural on an Oculus, where at least 3 days a week I do this boxing. It's a game, but it's a 25-minute game that has you move all of you're moving for the whole thing, and your heart rate
Yep,
gets up and all this stuff.
yep,
And so for me, it tells me after I do it 3 times in a week, you get the coaches that come out and clap for you and say, "Hey, good job, Bob. You're doing a fantastic job." So I mean, a lot of times when you do things and you set up your goals, you want to have, first of all, accountability, and secondly, don't you want to reward yourself or get some sort of a, kudos for, hey, good job, Vipin, for following through on this, and
yeah. I was talking to a really smart person about a month ago on this, and we were talking about we were talking about this exact thing and more of it. We're talking about it in two areas. Give yourself kudos for what you've been able to achieve. Being grateful for yourself or being proud of something that you've done. Got to do that. Got to reward yourself in some shape or form. And then the third thing is, not the third, the second thing that I work on, and I'll tell you the accountability part of it is, what is it that's blocking me from achieving more? So give myself kudos and saying, what is it that's blocking me? Usually it's around, for me, a fear or anxiety based feeling or thought or belief that gets in the way. I think for a lot of people, fear of failure gets in the way. What if I don't achieve that goal? How am I going to feel? So, accountability part, I started doing this a couple of weeks ago. This conversation I had with this really smart person about a month ago. And he said, write down all the things that you're proud of. So 10 times so far in the last few weeks, I have written down a list of things that I'm proud of and emailed it to myself. And then on the bottom of that list, I have a list of things that have gotten in the way of what I want to achieve, usually surround anxiety and feelings and beliefs. Mm-hmm. And then I come up with strategies around, let's say, economic insecurity. For a lot of people, it's money, right? They don't have enough money to do what they feel like. What's getting in the way for me to get more money? I wrote down, I've got to trust more. I've got to take action more on what I want. And so I come up with strategies around 4 or 5 things that are getting in the way for myself. I've done that 10 times, send myself an email 10 times.
Have they changed? Have the things that you're proud of about yourself, have they changed over the 10 times that you've done it?
Yes, I do a fresh one every day. And what's really changed in the 10 times that I've done this, the insecurities or the blockers, I was doing this last night, and they have minimized. So the blockers in my thought process, they have minimized to 2 versus 5. I still wrote down strategies around how I can better improve myself. But really, the blockers and the anxieties have gone down because I've acknowledged them. Acknowledge the things that are getting in your way. That's the accountability part, right? When you're accountable, that's when you say, what did I do wrong? What did I do that maybe not necessarily wrong, where I didn't succeed the way I wanted to succeed? What got in the way? And it's usually our beliefs and our action resulting from those beliefs.
It's funny because when I asked that question, you got a smirk on your face. So you must have been thinking, God, I hope Bob asked that as a question.
Well, I was going to talk about it. And it's funny that you brought it up, because that's what I noticed last night when I did that email to myself. And I was doing this email to myself at midday. And what I decided to do this week or the last couple of days was doing it at night. So I kind of a check in with myself at the end of the day. How did it go? What am I proud of? What am I grateful for? What did I do that I can give myself kudos for? I think it's really important, the question that you ask. How do you reward yourself, pat on the back? Because once you make yourself proud, you reinforce the good behavior. And that reinforcing of the good behavior is really important, that you did accomplish a lot. And it's important to acknowledge the accountability part, saying what didn't go well, what got in the way. So you said accountability and kudos at the same time. And it's funny, I've been practicing this for the last couple of weeks.
Well, good. That means I'm listening and paying attention, Vipin.
That's very important.
So what I take from all of this conversation is that our very first step, it is the 4th of January, 2026. Our first step might be just grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, jot down in your best handwriting what your goals are, and put them somewhere, or type them in your phone or on your computer or whatever. But our first step, I think, is to write down what our goals are for the year, or what our goals are for the week or for the day or for the whatever time frame that we want to give ourselves.
Yeah, I say, because it's a resolution time, do it for the year and break it down on what action do you think you need to take on a daily basis. And the first step could possibly be remind yourself. One of the things that you said a couple of weeks ago to me on the podcast about a month ago, your son at a very young age is a multimillionaire or a millionaire, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He said he wrote down all these goals on a piece of paper in a book. And then he carried that paper with him and he reminded himself on a daily basis. That's what you've got to do. Jim Carrey, the famous actor, wrote a $10 million check to himself and carried that check in his wallet until that dream of his came true. He was a starving actor.
I remember reading that.
Yeah. So having a tangible goal that you can do, that you can put down, remind yourself. If you remind yourself on a daily basis what you need to do, you're more likely to do it. Otherwise, you just forget. Life will get lifey. Things will go distraction. It doesn't mean that you won't have distraction or entertainment throughout the day. It just means for 20 minutes a day, remind yourself what you're going to do. I still got to walk the dog twice. I still got to give my son a ride yesterday. I still got to watch the Seahawks game. I still got to do a bunch of things that I wanted to do, talk to friends. All of those things I was able to do, but all I did throughout the process was remind myself of the goals and what I'm going to do today to achieve those goals. So reminding yourself on a daily basis is critical. And we've talked about meditation and mantras and things, tools. Get back to that base mind, right? Calm, centered, and loving is the base, the foundation of all your beliefs and how you get in that state of mind. And then build on top of that. Steps, action items from today, write down the goals. Remind yourself daily what action you need to take today and just do it. And if you fail today, that's okay. Just do it tomorrow. But if you remind yourself, you're more than likely to do it. And again, another book that I had mentioned to you a while back, Benjamin Franklin was a total screw up in his life. Most people don't realize that. They look at how successful he was with his printing business and success that he had in politics and all of that stuff. He used to write down at the end of every day, in all of these defects that he had in his personality and his behavior, write down a plus of how did he do that day. Did he improve in that area? Did he stay the same? Or did he hurt himself and did something negative? Taking daily inventory is going to help you a lot, but that's an advanced technique. We can talk more about that for people that want to be advanced, but you really got to put this in your awareness in the front of your mind. What is it that you want? Why do you want it? And what action do you need to take today?
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Fall Rise Give, where we explore stories of resilience, growth, and giving back. If you enjoyed today's episode, please visit our website at www.fallrisegive.com. Also consider subscribing to our podcast on your favorite platform and leaving us a review. Your feedback helps us to continue to bring you inspiring stories. Stay tuned for our next episode, and remember, every fall is a chance to rise, and every rise is an opportunity to give. Until next time, keep falling, rising, and giving. This is Fall Rise Give, produced by podcastforhire.com. Thank you for listening.